100 women. Dan was an honest, young, hard-working man. He had lots of friends and led a very happy life. However, there was one thing that had always concerned him. He was not very successful when it came to women, and he would do anything and everything to be able to conquer a girl he could spend the rest of his life with. The devil had always been interested in his soul. Of all the souls on earth, Dan's was particularly appealing to him. Hence, he was determined to take it. One night, the devil made a sudden appearance in Dan's bedroom. Dan was still awake, but did not notice the devil's presence at first. Once he did, he wondered what that despicable being wanted, and went on to ask him. The devil started by saying he would love to have his soul, and he was willing to give him whatever he wished in return. He told Dan he could have power, become a president, a champion in any sport, or a well-known poet, among others. Dan answered there was nothing that could make an honest man sell his soul to the devil, and asked him to leave. The devil reminded him that he could have anything he wished for, even 100 women if he wanted. At that moment, Dan's eyes lit up, and without thinking twice, he accepted the devil's deal. That same night, messy and without having his hair done, he went to a cafe near his house. On his way, he came across Mrs. Robertson, a gorgeous, demure woman. He thought it was the perfect opportunity to validate the power he had just been given, and so he did. He was amazed to see how the demurest woman in town had French kissed him just after he had told her he wanted a kiss. With this, there was no doubt he could conquer any woman. All the girls went for him, but he always had a reason to want a new one. He was never completely satisfied. 3 years went by amidst the marvel and hate of other males. He was with different girls who forgot about him as soon as he did not want any more from them. Then, one night, not happy with his lifestyle, he decided to count the number of girls he had been with so far. To do so, he used a small card the devil had given him on which he could cross out each one of his conquests. He was appalled to see the number. He had used his power 83 times by then. Concerned as he was, he promised himself to refrain from making any moves on women until he was sure it was worth it. This resolution did not last long. 15 days later, he only had 7 women left for the rest of his existence, and he was only 32. Fear made Dan have lasting relationships from that moment on. He did his best to keep each woman by his side, but he was not successful. He fell in love with an auto racer, but one day she had an accident and died. Then he fell in love again, but he did not know that this woman was married. When this girl's husband realized she had been seeing another man, he killed her and then committed suicide. Unlucky situations kept on coming, and at the age of 50, Dan had his last chance. He met Claudia, a woman that had everything he had always wished for. She had a shortcoming though. She was very jealous. Dan feared this could make them grow apart, and decided to tell her about his secret. He told her she had nothing to be afraid because she was the last woman he was going to be able to love, and went on to explain what the deal was about. Claudia did not believe him at first, but she did afterwards. Then showed her the card with the devil's signature and made her count the crosses. When realizing that could not love another woman different from her, Claudia became cold. The charm disappeared, and Dan was nothing more than an old man who she had gotten bored with. 3 days later, she cheated on him, and after a week, she hated him. Dan always had a conciliatory attitude because he knew he could not lose her, but she took advantage of this situation to humiliate him whenever she could. Finally, she grew tired of mocking and humiliating him and left him for someone she had met. After Claudia, Dan did not want to have anything to do with women for a long time. That night, the devil showed up again to let him know there was one woman left. He explained to Dan how the crosses both had did not match. This was due to a mistake Dan had made when marking as a conquest a time he had been taken to bed by a girl after he was drunk. After having this conversation with the devil, he devoted to his job. He discovered that his real passion was accounting. Women were not among his concerns anymore. He did not have the time. He knew he had another woman, but he would keep her for when he got older.